Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We live? Yeah, buddy. What's up? What's good, everyone? Happy Friday. This is some of that like store-bought iced coffee that I threw in a vintage style Coke cup. Dude, sometimes that store-bought refrigerated Starbucks black iced coffee ain't too bad, man. Anyway, what's up, man? Good morning, sir. Yeah, not too bad. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Welcome to this fine Friday edition. BS with Hannas. That's me. Y'all know that. You guys in the chat know that at least, but the world don't know that, but that's all right. Live on YouTube at BS with Hannas with me. I call myself Nikki Hannas. I'm out here just talking, thinking, you know what I mean? Pontificating, philosophizing, what have you. Yeah, man, and it's a Friday, so to me, it's like, all right, big picture time. Big picture towards the weekend. Because I don't get to have a nice Friday, have a good weekend, can't wait to get out of work. Fridays for me are like more intense. Saturdays for me are typically more intense. And I ain't had a day off this week. I don't get one next week. But, that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. Because I did take a half day for tomorrow, going to see a sweet Led Zeppelin tribute band. So that'll be cool, man. Got to get away from some of the nonsense. But, it's also one of those things that I got to make sure in the big picture sense, in the big picture framing. I got to make sure I can really enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it is, dude. And I can't go through my probably 12-hour workday today thinking, man, I can't wait for tomorrow. Can't wait for tomorrow. I should go through my day thinking about what I'm doing at the moment and just stay in the present tense and let the big picture kind of take care of itself, man. That's how I'm start. That's how I know I ought to look at things. Because there's a lot of things that's something I'm fascinated by and probably something I've talked about a lot on here is knowing what the right thing is, knowing the right attitude, knowing the right disposition, knowing the right place to be with it, whatever it might be. We all know. We all know the right things to do and not do. We all know the right way to act and not act. We all know the right ways to think and not think, but we don't always do it. That's a big source of tension for me, just in how I live. I get swayed easily. And in the big picture, that can cut both ways sometimes. In the big picture, what does it matter? What does it matter if I'm angry on the way to work because of these guys doing tree work or road construction or unicycles, whatever, like in the big picture, what's that matter? Well, all those little things turn into bigger, bigger, bigger things. If I got 20 minutes of being angry every single day, was that at least a quick 140 minutes a week of just existing in anger? Yeah, that's trash. That sucks. Spending 2 hours here. I wonder how much that just adds up. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. It's just like calories, dude. It's just like nutrition. It's just almost like the opposite. Little things matter in terms of what you ingest. Little things matter in terms of what you take into yourself. Trash television, garbage on the internet, slop, as a lot of people like to call it. You know, that matters. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Then your diet just is completely poisoned by just garbage. So if that's intake, what about output? A little bit of laziness here, a little bit of sloth there, a little bit of wrath over here. That adds up, man. And then, then you got to think, what's your character? And in the big picture, your character is everything, right? Is that what I'm led to believe? Am I wrong in that? I don't know. It's got to be a major part of it. or there's all those cliches about the rich guy who's miserable and then the poor guy who's just the happiest dude in the world, the most grateful cat you ever found. That's a character thing, isn't it? So that's how I kind of think, man. And I think it's important to think about that on the weekend. For me, it's like years and years ago, it was a Friday. All right, cool. Can't wait to start drinking while I'm done. Well, not even before I'm done work. I'll just start drinking a little bit. It's the last hour of the shift. Let's crack a couple beers, fellas, and then see where the night takes us. That was my life for a very long time. And the weekends were one of the weirdest things at first once I got sober because it was just such a habitually ingrained pattern for me. What was a Friday night? What was a Friday night for if I wasn't drinking beers and taking shots of whiskey and getting high, dude? You know, what's this? A Saturday morning that I'm clear headed? Well, what did I do? Was I filling those Friday nights with food instead? Yeah, a lot of times, just because that compulsion to have something to make this whatever kind of mythos we put onto a Friday night. Why does a Friday night matter? What makes it different? I just think about this stuff, man. Some people love it. Some people love the weekends, and it's very important to some people. But just to me, maybe it's a product of my life and how I've lived. The habits that I have, the work and general lifestyle that I've led. It's like, it just means it's going to be a busier day at work. It just means higher volume means I got to stay in there and clock more hours because I'm more helpful. That's how I think about it. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Not too sure, but big picture, it's like, whatever, dude. You know, let's focus on today. Let's try and stay present, right? Isn't that the trick to all of it? Being present, being grateful in that presence, doing a good job, doing the right thing that I know I should be doing in that moment. Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be the truth of it as far as I can tell. Then I guess my job is to just keep the defenses up so that little things don't come in and knock me out of that alignment. Because then you open your door to all the bull, to all the nonsense. I'm trying not to curse so much. Try not to curse so much online in public. Because it's one of those things too, man, where it's like, yeah, I'm back on the horse doing the cast, coming out here and talking to my people. You know what I mean? I'll wake up in the morning and take a walk and I'll do some reading and I'll ponder and then I'll come out here and talk to the people. But as I talk to more and more people in my life, it's almost like that's a slight against my character. Yeah, check out my podcast. It's F this, F that, F that guy, that effing dude was on an effing unicycle. It's like, what? I should pump the brakes on that, dude. Once upon a time in my life, I heard that allegedly Eminem doesn't even curse. Like, he doesn't use swear words in his real life. But you put on an Eminem song and that's all you get. So I wonder how much of that's performative, how much of that is genuine artistry, because I'm not anti profanity, but the way I use it, it's unbecoming to me. And it's taken me a long time to kind of see that. Now, that being said, when I'm at work, am I using highly articulate and thoughtful language throughout the day and in Spanish? Probably not. But, when I'm here, if I have the ability to control the sailor's mouth, I should a little bit. Because that's just what I was saying earlier, man. That turns into like the big picture kind of thing. Yo, you ever listen to BS with Hannas? Yeah, I can because that dude just curses all the time. It's like one long, unending stream of F bombs. Should probably not be like that, but maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a moot concern. Maybe all these things are just moot concerns and I'm just making stuff up on the fly. That's all good. As I'm reading this book kind of called me out. This is what I was talking about the other day. Learned optimism. Learned optimism. Martin Spelligman, PhD. I gotta look up what year this was. Also, I want to look at. Yeah, it's just some old head. This copyright 1990 was the first edition of this. So as I read this, it's like a psychology book, more psychology, I guess, than like personal development or self help. Although those genres are basically one common part of a Venn diagram in some levels, but this is more of a clinician's take, a practitioner's take, because that's what this dude was. As I get into it, there's like a test. There's like a couple of those tests in here. And usually when I read books And it's like, all right, fill this section out now and list your top three habits. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm just skipping that section. Sometimes it's corny, but this one kind of compelled me a little bit because it deals with optimism. And by dealing with optimism, you're therefore dealing with pessimism. Hmm. That's important. How to change your mind and your life. That could be a wealth book. That could be some cheerleading, rah rah PMA stuff, or it could be like, a clinician's book. So, in any event, as I'm reading it, I got past the learned helplessness thing. And we're all kind of familiar with that. But then here's like this big long test thing. The test was to test your own optimism. Like, that's interesting. Just a series of questions. They all had some kind of qualifier at the end of it. One's like a PSG, a PMG, PSB, and you just circle your answer in this test. Like he's saying to just circle a response, what your most likely outcome would be. And for example, the first question is the project you are in charge of is a great success. So what's your answer? A, I kept a close watch over everyone's work, or B, everyone devoted a lot of time and energy to it. So it's a bunch of questions like that. It's a bunch of questions like that. And as you do it, you're supposed to add it up. It gives you some kind of score. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, this is all right. Like, where's this going? Like at this point, my impatience kicks in. And I want to get through it. And it has to deal with these basic quantifiers, which I guess kind of turns into the attitude, which kind of turns into the stories we tell ourselves, that constant scene on repeat, in terms of pessimism or optimism and the big picture. Yeah, the stories we're telling ourselves and the way we're looking at things, the part of the movie that we're the main character in that is our lives, that kind of stuff matters. And the metrics he was using was permanence being a value, pervasiveness, either specific or universal, being a value, and hopefulness, personalization, whether it's internal or external, the sources of blame or things of that nature. So I took this test, right? My score was a -2. Okay. -2 doesn't ever sound good. No matter what. -2 don't sound good. So here it is. Finally, if your score, well, no, that's the wrong part. That's the wrong part. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I don't know. The point of it is my score was a -2, which indicates very pessimistic. A score of 0 or below is very pessimistic. A score above 8 is highly optimistic. So thanks, Doc. This is why I don't trust psychologists. This dude gonna tell me that I'm a pessimist. It got me thinking a little bit, though, for sure. Because if I wasn't inherently a pessimist, what in the world would compel me to pick up a book called Learned Optimism? Obviously stupid. So it's pessimism's funny like that, man. Pessimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm a realist. I've said that so many times, and I bet you half the world said that so many times. What'd you say? I'm a grumpy optimist. Yeah, I'm on my good days. On my other days, not so much. So then here's the next test that was in here. The next test, I'm like, oh, good, another test. Test your depression. I'm like, all right, it's all good. I had my month off. I ain't depressed no more, doc. Well, according to this, I'm moderately depressed. So thank you. I got through reading a book. This book was probably $18. Um, and I'm about 40 pages in. And that just saved me hundreds and hundreds of dollars on what any ordinary therapist or psychologist would tell me anyway. So cheers to that. So if I'm overly pessimistic and moderately depressed, according to this book, nah, I don't think I am. I think the descriptor of a a grumpy optimist, that's real for sure. I don't know, man, but I guess it's hard to assess the self. We can be as honest about ourselves as we can be, but there's blinders, there's limits. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't be objective towards yourself. How can you? You can try. You can try and get pretty close, but you ain't going to be totally objective. Even an observer can't be purely objective because they're coming in with biases and perceptions and all types of witnesses and things they saw but forget, things they never seen in the first. So, like you can't really gauge yourself. You can try to. But all right, so now I'm armed with a little bit of self-knowledge. I'm pessimistic. Now, why am I pessimistic? I don't know. That seems to be more the internal thing to me, right? Like being pessimistic is a product of learned things. Why am I pessimistic about work and money? Well, I ain't really had a a great, fruitful, prolific life in terms of work and money. You know what I mean? Like, why am I moderately depressed? Well, look around, dog. Look around at the world. Look at the state of things. Look, there's a million reasons you can conjure up as to why you're moderately depressed. And if you're moderately depressed, doesn't that feed into a sense of extreme pessimism? Would not a sense of pessimism bleed into a sense of depression? What's the interface? External world, internal world. They're kind of the same thing. Now, none of that to me seems to have anything to do with attitude. This is all kind of like feeling stuff. Maybe not. I don't know. Pessimism's kind of like a rational, reasonable attitude, but I guess it's still an emotion. Having a pessimistic vibe or a pessimistic outlook, that's a stone's throw away from emotion. And emotion don't really matter when it comes to what's in front of you, although it does color what you're doing, whatever's in front of you. Yeah, I don't know. This stuff's interesting. This is stuff I think about on a Friday. This is stuff I think about on a Friday because maybe parts of me really want my Friday to be like, oh, I can't wait till 4 o'clock. Oh, we get out the office early today. Maybe parts of me really, really want that because I don't got it. Mad about it, bent up about it. So maybe I'm just coping with otherwise pessimistic and depressing realities. Possibly. You can't rule it out. Maybe if I had a gig tonight, it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe. I don't know. The big picture, it don't really matter. In the big picture, I'm doing what I told myself I'm going to do. I'm out here creating. Creating's important. The act of creation in itself, I believe, is a spiritual pursuit. You know what I mean? I got another day sober, baby. I'm coming up on 3 years off the juice. That's a spiritual pursuit and micro accomplishments every additional day. I'm still crushing in the gym. I'm going to be there within the hour on a Friday doing chest and arms. Yeah, that's a spiritual pursuit, but it's also a pursuit of the body. So that's a great thing. That's a win. I got to spend some time reading this morning. Even if the doctor's calling me out, that's all right. Still sharpening the mental weapon. It's still putting good stuff in the garden of the brain, nourishing that soil. So those are wins all day long. I got to go outside and walk and ponder and sweat because in Pennsylvania it's June and now that means it's humid. It's just gross outside, but that's all good. There's rabbits and squirrels and birds. Look at the birds. They're not concerned with tomorrow, so why are we? Yeah, it's important. That's some wisdom. That's some wisdom for the big picture. So that's what I'm thinking about, man. Thank you guys for hanging out. Casual on a Friday. You see me kind of piecing this stuff together. It's one of the benefits of doing this unscripted. It forces, it's like a guitar solo, man. It really, really is. I've said that many times, but the way I play guitar, I don't really write or compose solos. There'll be a couple themes or motifs, you know, a, a refrain to fall back on. That's no different than a topic. But everything in between, when you're playing live on a stage and you got momentum and you're carrying it, you can't. If you hit a bad note, you got to recover quick. So you better know your scales. You kind of got to come in prepared and ready to roll with it. Now, within that, you got a lot of freedom because you can kind of venture out. You can adventure a little bit. You're not bound to this regimented script. So that's what I'm thinking. Anyway, yeah, it's time to go. Happy Friday, everybody. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel. Hang around. I'll come out here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you really enjoy it, hit it up to Patreon, patreon.com/Nicky B. Hannas, where I post all my creative stuff. You can follow me on Instagram, my newer Instagram at Heavy Blues Metal. You want to hear my music? There's another YouTube channel at Nicky B. Hannas Music. That's just kind of improv jamming. Put some new videos up this weekend. You want to hear the studio stuff? NickyBHannas.com, NickyBHannas.bandcamp.com, Nicky B. Hannas on all streaming services. You want to get you some threads? You like the message? You want to rap the message? Oh, wait, there it is. Yeah, buddy. HeavyBluesMetal.com. Yeah, man. Keep it real. Happy Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Put in some work, lift some weights, lift, shred, keep ripping. I'm out. Peace. Nice. Later.